Hey, what's going on, phone dogs? BooHD here, and this is the Xiaomi Air 13. Xiaomi is a massive Chinese company that I like to refer to as the Apple of China, as they are very well known in China and they make high quality products. However, Xiaomi makes budget-friendly products, or at least they're more affordable than Apple products. This is the Xiaomi Air 13, the bigger brother to the Xiaomi Air 12, which we reviewed in October of 2016. You might have watched that video, links below if you haven't. And similar to the Air 12, the Air 13 can be purchased from gearbest.com. It's actually being sold for around $800, but it's important to note that the device ships with Windows 10 in Chinese. So if you're living in the United States like I am, you're going to need to reinstall Windows 10 in English if you're an English speaker. The good news is that it's really not very difficult. All you need to really do is install via a USB drive and then install all of the drivers. I'll leave a link in the description to a forum that kind of walks you through the process. So let's talk about the Air 13. The build construction is one that works very well. It works to convey a sense of wealth, but with plenty of functions sprinkled in around it. For example, the shell consists of aluminum with very subtle curves, and there's hardly any logos plastered on this device. The front of the laptop is actually one clean slab of aluminum, meaning you can add some stickers or skins to give it a look of your own. Its own unique flair, something that you cannot find or buy from Xiaomi. But of course, you don't have to. You can keep it looking fresh if that fits your style. In terms of ports, we'll see Xiaomi didn't skimp out on the ports in favor of keeping the device extra slim. It's a pretty slim device, don't get me wrong, but it features a full-sized HDMI port, a USB 2.0 port, and audio jack on the left-hand side. There's also a USB Type-C port and a USB 2.0 port on the right-hand side as well. The biggest difference between the Air 13 and the Air 12 is the display size. Instead of 12.5 inches, you are working with a 13.3 inch display size. That is right at the sweet spot in my opinion. It features a full resolution and the IPS display is very bright and extra contrasty. Black colors look great on this display. It's not an AMOLED display, but it doesn't really have to be an AMOLED display. The black colors look really good. Now, with that said, viewing angles aren't the greatest, but hey, that might be okay if you don't really want people looking in at what you're doing. It's also worth noting that the display is very glossy and there is no touchscreen here. As for the keyboard is extremely tactile and responsive. It's really a dream to type on, especially coming from a MacBook user. There's certainly more travel than butterfly keys, and there's a pretty good spacing between the keys as well. The trackpad is decent, but it's not the best. For a Windows laptop, it's on the big side, though it could be a little bit bigger. When you're in the sweet spot, it's actually very clicky and responsive. However, the top quarter of the trackpad isn't clickable. Also, pinch to zoom works, but it's a little bit janky, though I blame Windows for that. I also found a weird software issue where the touchpad locks up for a second or two after using the keyboard, something that wasn't present in the Xiaomi Air 12 for whatever reason. In terms of performance, I found the Xiaomi Air 13 to perform well overall. It features a 256GB SSD, which ASSSD Benchmark said has a read speed of 1300 megabytes per second and a write speed of 155 megabytes per second. It also features a dual-core 2.3 GHz Intel Core i5-6200U processor with 8 GB of RAM. That might not mean a lot to you, so I ran it through Geekbench 4, and Geekbench 4 gave it a single-core score of about 3,000 and a multi-core score of about 5,500. Being the reviewer that I am, I just had to play a little bit of Half-Life 2 to test the graphical performance. It's very playable, however, there were some definite frame drops and rendering issues here and there. The thing that made it the most unplayable though was the keyboard and the trackpad glitch I talked about earlier, where the trackpad will freeze after using the keyboard. It makes playing games a little bit more difficult. You can't really move around as freely. For web browsing and running fairly basic applications like Microsoft Office, Excel, PowerPoint, Word, etc., this laptop works just fine. However, it will slow down and begin to stall considerably when running multiple applications in the background. As for battery life, the battery life is pretty solid, but it's not excellent. Xiaomi says the 5400 mAh battery can last upwards of 11 hours on a single charge, but you're not really going to get that performance in real-world usage. You'll likely see around 6 hours of battery life. One of my favorite features though, that kind of makes up for the somewhat lack of battery life here, is the fast charging support. You can charge this battery up near full in about an hour. On the flip side, these speakers aren't my favorite. They don't sound awful, but they are a little bit tinny. It's really the placement that I have the biggest problem with. They are bottom facing, so audio isn't blasted to your ear canals. Some other features include Bluetooth 4.1 and 802.11 Wi-Fi. There's also a 1 megapixel webcam. That sounds more pathetic than it actually is. It's able to record at 720p at 30 frames per second, but for the occasional Skype call, it should perform just fine. If you frequently talk on Skype or Hangouts, you'll want to pick up an external webcam or maybe even look at a different laptop. Although the MacBook's webcam, for example, isn't the greatest either. Overall, the Xiaomi Air 13 is a good laptop, but it's not quite as great as the Air 12, which we reviewed earlier. You would think that they would be nearly identical in terms of performance, but for whatever reason, the Air 13 had some software issues here and there, which, made the Air 13 less enjoyable to use. I will say your results may vary since this is a Windows machine we're working with. You'll likely be able to fix this problem with a fresh install or by troubleshooting the drivers. I wanted to review this machine straight from the source, which is why I left the software alone for the most part, but given the price of around $800, it's still very hard to go wrong with the Xiaomi Air 13. If you buy the Chinese version of this laptop from gearbest.com, you will need to reinstall the OS, so if you're not very tech savvy, I wouldn't suggest you buy this laptop. But, if you are interested, I'll leave a link in the description to purchase the laptop via gearbest.com. They are a reputable source. They sent me this laptop in brand new condition. I have no complaints. The only minor complaints are with the product itself. So it's not every day we review laptops here on PhoneDog.com, so if you enjoyed this video, I would appreciate a thumbs up. I'll do my best to answer any questions you might have in the comments section. As always, I'm BoHD from PhoneDog.com. I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you for watching, and I will see you right back here in the next one. See ya.